Scorpio, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, we review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun and what that means for your bottom line for each week. This is the week of July 4th through July 10th, 2023. I have all the information written down for you. See me, my eyes looking down, that's why. Looking down to my notes. Happy July 4th, everybody. God bless out there in the United States of America. If you're here in the U.S., happy Independence Day. So we're going to start out really broad with the big stuff, the stuff that basically is impacting everybody. And then we're going to go into the Scorpio specific information. And then I will break things down into the decans so that we can get an exact read off of what is impacting your natal sun in particular. If you don't know exactly where your natal sun is located in the zodiac sign of Scorpio, that's okay. To enjoy this video, the only thing you need to know is your birth date. I will be translating all the degrees into correlating birth dates or birth date spans, so you'll know exactly what's impacting you based on your birth date. But the most accurate read, absolutely, get your natal chart. It's free, it's easy. You could do it in a couple of seconds over online. You just need your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location, and then they'll spit out your natal chart for you. Okay. One thing before we continue. Will you help out this channel and Born Without Boundaries in general? How many of you out there will help by buying one of these hats? You can get them in black or white. It is the Scorpio symbol in the full spectrum embroidery. Who out there will help out? Can we get 100 of you? Can we get 10 of you to purchase one of these hats? Go to www.bornwithoutboundariestarot.com and look in the shop and you will be able to find it. In fact, I will put the link down below. I'll pin it to the top of the comment section. Who will help out the channel? Who will help me out by buying? Let's see if we can sell 100 of these by the end of the week. They're available, like I said, in black and in white. And they have this beautiful, beautiful clasp in back, high quality and gorgeous. And it's a time when I really, really need your help. So please check that out. Now, let's get into the astrology. So the big things that are happening this week are, number one, by the 10th, Mars moves into Virgo. So at the very end of this week, Mars transits from where it is now in Leo to Virgo. So it technically moves between 26 degrees Leo and 0 degrees Virgo. This impacts you directly because it is your ruling dignitary. So Mars going into Virgo is actually kind of calming energy. It's very pedantic. Actually, you know what, I'm going to take that back because I have my native Mars in Virgo and it's not very calming. When you have Mars in Virgo, it's actually very exacting and you get really worried if every T isn't crossed and I isn't dotted, if things aren't done the way that you expect them to, if things don't go on schedule. So we become very sort of schedule obsessed, or we want things to be regular. We want things to, when we do things, we want it to be normal. We want it to become normal and pedantic. And when things don't end up going that way, it can frustrate us a lot. So it can be very exacting energy. FYI. Another big thing that happens this week, and I would say that it starts around the 8th, and it actually goes beyond this week. It'll go from July 8th through the 13th, is there is a grand square that forms between Pluto, the North Node, the South Node, and Mercury as it moves into the third decan of Cancer. So what does this mean? That's a really good question. There's a lot of turnaround and change of events. When Mercury and Pluto are opposite each other, this is about some stuff coming up from the depths and information being discovered and found out, or us finally being able to talk about things that have been hidden. And with this moon that we just went through yesterday, the full moon in Capricorn, please leave your comments below and let me know exactly how it impacted you guys. Because it's really, it was really intense energy, and I did predict that there was going to be some information that was kind of released or discovered, and I am really wondering how this energy between Pluto and Mercury is going to transform us. But we've been through it with Mars, we've been through it with Venus, and now it's Mercury's turn. And almost right after Mercury moves beyond Pluto, the Sun is going to be in the third decan of Cancer, and it will be directly opposite Pluto. So this is an intense time of discovery, of groundbreaking discovery, of changes, personal changes in our thought process, but also in the information that's communicated to us. And I think that this could be a very dynamic week and a huge kind of expose. You let me know, because it involves Pluto, and so it'll directly impact you guys especially. We also have today on the 4th, the moon conjuncts Pluto. Now that's really big because it's still sort of coming just out of its full moon phase, and everybody will feel the impact of this because moon conjunct Pluto is intense. But since moon conjunct Pluto is going to be in a loose trine to Jupiter, that's going to volumize it and make everything more extreme. Moon conjunct Pluto is difficult energies, like feeling a lot of emotions coming up that you may not even expect to come up, getting intensely emotional. This is also sextile to Neptune, which means it's intensely psychic. So if you're feeling more drained, if you're feeling tired for reasons that you don't understand, it's because of this energy, and you'll start to feel it. You'll feel it today, maybe even into tomorrow. Just an FYI. There's also Venus conjunct Mars that's still going on at the end of Leo. Mars will go into Virgo at the end of this week, like we discussed, and they'll pull apart from each other. Venus is actually slowing down because by the end of July, she's going retrograde. So she's going to start slowing down, and their conjunction will be separated. But this week, the conjunction is still very much there. But because they're separating, it's really only Venus this week that's in a tight square to Uranus, which means there is a sense of rebelling and changing your sexual desires, your sexual proclivities, challenging the norm when it comes to what you want or desire or what you value. That could work for you or against you, but it is challenging energy. All week long, these are pretty challenging energies that we're all going to have to deal with. The Sun is going to be square to Chiron as it is trine to Uranus as of the 6th of this week. Happy birthday, Michelle Sandegate. That's my birthday. That's intense energy too. I mean, Sun conjunct Chiron is all about changes to your ego, or challenges to your ego, the wounds to your ego that you haven't even really discovered or understood. It could also be old injuries being brought to light, brought to the surface. With a sextile to Uranus, though, there's an implication there that this is trying to get us to change and rebel and take on alternative routes when it comes to how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about what makes us valuable, or how we want to be seen by the world, and taking those changes and making them happen. So that's also very interesting energy. Challenging week, and I would say overall a very disruptive energy. Not necessarily going to end you someplace bad, but disruptive, absolutely. It's going to end you someplace different, and it's going to take us to the extreme, so we may not have as much choice as we usually like, okay, in terms of the changing process. Let's go into Scorpio specific information, and for that, we look to two things. Your ruling dignitaries, which is Pluto is your modern ruler, and then Mars is your traditional ruler, and then also what's going on in the actual zodiac sign of Scorpio. In the actual zodiac sign of Scorpio, we have the South Node. The South Node is at 0 degrees Scorpio now, because the South Node, as of the 15th, 16th of this month, is going to head into Libra. That's right, the nodes are shifting, and we're gonna feel that. That's a big impact, because what it is the modality of the world, and now the discomfort zone becomes Aries. And so this sense of ourselves, the sense of who we are, our bodies, all of those things now become, and even our anger and our energy and where we place it. So this could be very volatile energy when it's a discomfort zone. Really interesting. And then the South Node will then move into Libra, which means comfort when it comes to relationships and togetherness, and maybe even finding a comfort zone there, because we really have kind of stretched our sense of individuality to an extreme, and that might come back to bite us in the butt, FYI. So that's just something to watch out for over the next week. But this week, the South Node is at 0 degrees Scorpio, guys. Now Mars is headed into Virgo on the 10th. Like I said, it's moving between 26 degrees Leo and 0 degrees of Virgo. It is conjunct to Venus all week long, but Venus is slowing down because it will retrograde by the end of the month. Mars, by the 9th of this month, is going to be opposite Saturn, which also will be extremely heated energy, which means we're going to have a lot of competition or combativeness when it comes to authority figures, laws, rules, regulations. Anything that people feel is holding them back is really going to be tense. Like there's a battle in the sky between the two malefic energies, and this could be explosive. Powerful energy by the 9th, and you'll feel that, especially for you guys feeling like, why are the laws all over me? Why are the rules all over me? All my obligations, all the things that have held me back, and you'll really start to feel the heat rising when it comes to challenging those. And then we also have the Mars trine the North Node, which means Mars wants to move into the future, and sextile to the South Node, which means it wants to use its talents and its skills to just be taking action and moving forward. It feels comfortable with the transition to the North Node toward the discomfort zone. So I'm telling you right now, this is a week where it's going to be very difficult for you to tolerate the lack of change or anything that is holding you back. Anything that can trigger that, it will fire you off. Now, Pluto is still at 29 degrees Capricorn. It is still in retrograde, but by the 7th, it is going to be opposite Mercury, and that's when it's going to hit the fan and start really coming up. Because Mercury moves really quickly, it'll only be for this week, but oh my God, what volatile energy. And just watch, because you could be spewing things out of the mouth that you tried to hold in, and it won't work. Also, in opposition to Mercury with your natal suns can no, it's not with your natal suns though. It's with your ruling dignitary. So in general, things stirring and churning and coming up, and you discovering things. You could really go into kind of investigative mode this week, where you're not willing to accept the given answer. And so your spidey senses will be tingling all week, and I will not be surprised, especially with Mars heading into Virgo, with you, because Virgo loves to investigate, with you using that energy to dive in and unravel the mysteries that have been really getting at you, especially those things standing in your way from moving forward. And then you have the long-term sextile to Neptune, between Neptune and Pluto, which will mark a generation. It will actually be into 2035, which is just trying to expand and grow your psychic abilities, energies, as well as your closeness to God, and anything that challenges that intuition or the validity of intuition is going to really, really grind on you. So a lot of really volatile energy happening for you guys. I don't think it's going to be the easiest week. I feel like you're going to feel like you have a fire in your belly all week long, and I think it could make you really volatile and pop offish and not take no for an answer. Let's start with the decans. If you know your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Scorpio, you are decan 1, so you're Scorpio 1 because your sun falls in the first decan of Scorpio. This correlates to October Scorpios. So if your birthday is between maybe October 21st, it could be October 22nd, definitely the cusp of Libra and Scorpio, all the way through the 30th, 31st of Scorpio season, or of October. So definitely Halloween babies. This would be Scorpio 1. Your natal suns are in opposition to the North Node. And if you're born between the 30th or 31st, around there, your natal suns are opposite Jupiter. So this means a really volatile energy for you. It's been long term. It's especially impacting those of you born around the 30th, 31st. This feeling of I want to grow faster than the world is letting me. This feeling of I want to change and be bigger and be noticed and be seen. And that's great, but it may not be happening as fast enough as you expect, as your expectations are, which can be driving you to a level of ruthlessness that will not flatter you long term. So that's an FYI and something you have to be aware of with your natal suns in opposition to Jupiter. Now, we also talk about ruthlessness. Natal suns are square to Pluto long term, and you've really got to watch it this week or with this energy, especially those of you born with the birth dates that are October 30th, 31st. This sense of I want my way and I want it now. Oh, you will get your way this week. You will have the impact on anybody and make anything go your way. But you have to watch the Dharma when it comes to square to Pluto. You have to watch the Dharma when it comes to an opposition to Jupiter, because there is that sense of I'm gonna get my way. But what kind of karma will that generate in the future? Try to remember relentless, good. Ruthless, bad. Because that can result in some dharma that you'll have to pay back next life. And some of you may be willing to take those chances. But if you've paid any kind of or suffered any kind of like past life experience through this life, you'll know how really hard it is and how really toxic it is and how really it strands you because you don't even know where it came from, and you feel like life is unfair all the time because you're paying for things that you didn't make choices or decisions of in this life. But that's the kind of permanent impact it could have. So remember, relentless, not ruthless. That is got to be your motto right now for the next couple of years, because that square to Pluto will last for years. There's also a long-term sextile to Saturn all this year. What does that mean? The laws, rules, regulations, and obligations are actually working in your favor. It could even be your modality to sign those contracts to make sure people have to do things a specific way. This week, by the 8th, by July 8th, the cusps, so those born around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of October, will be sextile to Mars and square to Mercury. That means by the 8th, Mercury, you'll start to feel it. You'll start to feel like your own little mini Mercury retrograde where people just aren't understanding you. Communications have gone haywire. Mercury and Uranus actually have a strange relationship going on between them now. They're about to go square. And that's running pretty hard now to begin with. Like it's disrupting things. Like why aren't things working the way they're supposed to? It's because of that kind of hiccup between the two planets that control technology, really. So with you guys, you might feel that extra powerful, especially around the 8th, beginning the 8th. There's also a sextile to Mars between Mars and your natal sun, which means you want to get things done now. You want to make things happen now, and there is opportunity there. You've got so much energy and so much vitality, but you've also got these other obstacles against you, so you could feel like you are running into brick walls or tripping and like injuring yourself intensely because you want to go, you want to use your body and get it done, but then there's all these trip ups along the way. So This is particularly almost like you're walking through a landmine energy this week. Just an FYI. So action, not words, is what I wrote down. Mercury being by the 8th. I wrote that down because Mercury being square to your sun, words and communications is not gonna do it for you. But a sextile to Mars will mean you'll want to take actions, or you'll best express yourself better through your actions than through your words. FYI. Let's go on to Scorpio 2s. Scorpio 2s, if you know your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Scorpio, your natal sun falls in the second decan of Scorpio, and so you're Scorpio 2s. This usually correlates to birthdays between the 1st and the 10th. 1st or 10th, depending. It could even be sometimes the 31st and the 11th. It depends on the year, but it's generally that time span of the first 10 days of November. You are Scorpio 2s. If your birthday is more toward the 9th, 10th, then your natal suns are in a long-term quincunx to Chiron, which means you're working on yourself, you're inspired, you're frustrated, you want to fix the old traumas, and the old traumas will keep coming up. But with the sun this week, because the sun is going to be, what did I write down? The sun, I think, is square to Chiron this week. It's going to activate Chiron, and so old injuries might act up more. They might frustrate you more. You might want to be inspired to heal them more, but also a sense of that just hyperactivity with that extra stress in feeling those old injuries, especially to your body, because Chiron is still in Aries. This week, your natal suns are trine to the sun, which means there's a comfort level inside of yourself. There is a sense of understanding who the heck you are, finding peace within who you are, and allowing people to see you for exactly who you are. This is actually a really charismatic time for you. But we also have your natal suns, especially if you're born around the 1st or 2nd of November, your natal suns are in opposition to Jupiter, which means that trine to the sun, current sun, but also in opposition, you're going to want attention. You're going to really want attention and want to be seen and want to be noted and want to move forward. And there could be an expectation of getting it before you're ready for it. But with the trine to the sun, you might have a little bit of luck this week with a sense of being seen. But remember, even though you get seen doesn't mean you're actually still ready for it. So this could be a time when you advance really quickly beyond your preparedness. FYI. We also have, if you're born around the 9th, 10th of November, then your natal suns are in opposition to Uranus. And with the trine to the sun, that could mean technology trips you up. Oddities or things like a natural rebellion. I don't want things the same way. I want to be seen for exactly who I am, and I want people to see my oddities, and these will come kind of leaping out. Also, surprises or curveballs unexpected surprises or curveballs with how you express yourself or with dynamics you find within yourself will pop up this week. And that's what I meant by this week is volatile, mostly because, especially for you guys, 9th, 10th of November, because the changes that are happening are not changes that you're initiating. There are changes that you're being pushed into. So this is an FYI. Scorpio 3s. Scorpio 3s, if you know that your natal sun is located somewhere between 20 and 29 degrees Scorpio, you are Scorpio 3s. That usually correlates to birthdays, November birthdays, between the 11th all the way up to the Sagittarius cusp on the 21st, maybe 22nd some years. It's up through that point. So if you're born closer to the 11th or 12th, you guys also have a strong quincunx to Chiron, which means those agitation in those bones, those old injuries, past traumas, could be really sending some frustrating, if not motivational, energy through you right now, but it will be motivating you through frustrating you. Also, by the 7th, your natal suns, hold on a second. I wrote this down. Sextile to Pluto. by the 7th. So that's really interesting energy too, because you are going to be the change, you guys. You guys are going to bring the change, want the change, and want the metamorphosis. It's also, though, you're going to take things to the extreme, but it will work out for you by taking things to the extreme. You'll kind of feel this push and this rush of, I'm not going to stop. And you guys should definitely trust that, because you're sextile to Pluto, which means things will work out for you. You'll also have a lot of influence over other people to get them to change their minds. You'll realize you have this very positively imposing energy that's going to work really nicely for you. Yeah. Oh, that's why 7-4. Don't worry about that with the sextile to Pluto. 7-4 is the quincunx to Chiron. That's what it is. But anyway, let's move on. Trine to Neptune is long term, so you're really, really this is intuition personified. This is a sense of really feeling and trusting your creativity, your instincts, your intuition, and those mysteries about you, just letting it flow. Also, your spiritual beliefs and what you believe in, finding harmony, finding what gives you peace. This week in particular, if you're born around the 11th or 12th, know that your natal suns are in opposition to Uranus, which we talked about with Scorpio 2s. You'll feel this, so you'll feel these surprises, coming out of nowhere. You'll be surprising yourself. You'll want to be the surprise in the room. You will get very frustrated when people try to predict you or try to think they know you. And that's long term. So there is a frustration that develops there. This week for all of you, your natal suns are square to the Venus-Mars conjunction, which means that there's a disruption and challenge when it comes to your sexual desires, your sexual demonstrations of yourself, your sexual relationships. That could just mean major sexual tension that's built up and a need for release. But it'll be intense this week, and it could even cause some butting heads when it comes to your relationships, and in some cases, your financial situations. Venus isn't usually too financial when she's in Leo. It's more about desires and passion and heart space. But if what you desire and what you've chased after has been money, then there could be some challenges that come to play this week. So overall, I hope you understand what I'm saying, Scorpios. This is a tense week for you, an intense week for you. That will be all about dynamic changes, especially inward, that come up and start popping up, especially with information that comes up or pops up, and information that you'll want to dig for and understand. And with that opposition to Mercury, between Mercury and Pluto, you might lose yourself in those delving into those depths. So please be very aware. Try to be near water. Try to be able to ground yourself on earth. Anything that will help you to calm all this crazy tension that's going on around you. If you could be by the ocean especially, this will be very, very helpful this week, because it will calm you. It will help to tranquilize you. You let me know in the comments below how you're feeling impacted this week. Please come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. And before you leave this channel, subscribe to the channel, please. And also, and I'll be making this announcement on Born Without Boundaries, don't forget to purchase your hat. I cannot understate how important it is to the channel. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye, Scorpio.